As I'm sure you've already realized, the TX-6 is just going to be a product that's divisive, kind of like teenage engineering in general right now. That being said, of course, they do have affordable products as well. The most recent one being a free product. I think it's called Pixel. I haven't checked it out yet. From what I understand, this is a free product in collaboration with Google. You're able to splice up videos and kind of just create beats with that. Anyways, I digress. I've posted a bunch of TX-6 related content on YouTube as well as TikTok, and opinions are extreme. Some people see it as being expensive, but also realize its potential. But I would say that the majority of people at this point are just completely bashing it, saying that it's worthless, you know, hipster piece of junk, etc. And as a first impression, well, first of all, it's a bit rude, to be honest, but part of me also gets it because it's smaller than my hand. Like, how could this thing possibly be worth $1,200? What I don't know is if these same people understand its capability, which is exactly what we're going to be exploring in this video. And maybe at the end of the video, you might just think that it's not worth it. That's basically what I'm here for, to help you with. This is my first impression on the TX-6 and its practical uses. I could kind of already see it working its way into my workflow. It's limiting and, dare I say, annoying in some ways, but at the same time, it's one of a kind. We haven't seen anything like this yet. And at least so far for me, it's been quite inspiring. Maybe I'm just like in the honeymoon phase with it, but I could see its potential. Creatively, its limits sort of put you in a box, which might not be a bad thing. Like in the case of the OP1, it's definitely a good thing. It's had such an impact on the synth community. Not to mention that it takes the term traveling mixer to a completely new level. We're not going to cover every single technical aspect of the instrument. I'm just going to be showing you the parts that stood out to me and that are sort of practical to my particular workflow. We'll be discussing design and capabilities, which ties into why I think it's so expensive, drum synth, its limits, and an actual breakdown of how I'm using it in a DAWLESS setup, so like a production composition sort of thing, TX-6 plus the Digitone. We'll also be routing effects through an effects pedal, Reverb by Empress. All of the topics that I just mentioned are organized into chapters in the description, so if you'd like to jump to something specific, head to the description. Disclaimer that Teenage Engineering sent this to me in exchange for content, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. As I mentioned, my job here is to show you guys if the TX-6 is worth the price, if it'll fit into your setup, or if it's just not for you. Another big thank you to today's sponsor, AIAIAI. They have changed the game for people like us in the DAWLESS world and even DJs. Basically, anyone who's doing any sort of live performance, these headphones are the best. They're wireless. So I have a room full of gear that's routed into my audio interface. So I'm just able to slide around my room, no problem. I don't have to worry about tripping or like getting tangled in a wire, spaghetti effect style. And obviously, of course, for live performance, same deal, it makes things a lot easier. If you're at all interested, make sure to use the promo code Killen at checkout at AIAIAI's website. That way they'll send you a free hard case for the headphones, and we'll be getting more into these a bit later in this video. First things first, the most striking part of the TX-6 to me, at first, is the design, of course. It's hard to tell with this overhead camera angle, but this is the OP1. It's like 4 times bigger than it versus a pocket operator. It's tiny, and yes, these knobs are extremely close together, which is a bit of a hindrance during a live performance, especially like these middle knobs here in this section. I think it's designed for people who are traveling, looking for like an ultra compact setup, audio interface, mixer as well, amongst everything else that the TX-6 has to offer. Despite the size, can it be used in a live situation? Absolutely, just don't lose it. From what I heard and understand, every single part that makes up the TX-6 is custom made, which is part of the reason why it's so expensive. Also, on top of that, Teenage Engineering is still considered a boutique company in the synth world. They're not like Roland, so they only have a few products that they're selling. They don't sell like the sheer quantity that a much larger company sells, which is another reason why I think the TX-6 is so expensive, as well as the OP1 Field. That being said, I'm not justifying these prices. I do think that they're very expensive designer prices. Design-wise, much like, in my opinion, all of TE's gear, it's pretty much a masterpiece, which makes sense because TE is a design company. That being said, that's not to take away from the impact that they've had on the synth world, obviously. Next thing is capabilities. This is another reason why I think the TX-6 has such a heavy price tag. It's got its tiny little hands in a lot of different categories, let's say. First and foremost, it is a 12-track audio interface and mixer. Portable mixer, obviously. There is a drum and synth mode, which sonically is pretty flexible. The drums really do sound great. could also conveniently be a hybrid of the functions that I just mentioned, which we'll get into in just a bit. There's a basic DJ mode as well, which is where Q and aux mode come in handy. So just to be clear on that, if you're a DJ, you cue things into your headphones before the crowd actually hears it. So Q, and then the audio out or aux is speakers. The effects are quite basic. Let's take a look at how they sound. Effects 1 is assignable and mixable for individual channels. And Effects 2 is a master effects, which you're able to solo on a given instrument as well. So let's say I want this pattern to play again. Let's go back to Effects 2. And now it's just going to affect, let's say, the snare drum. Interesting. Tape. Try that on snare. Let's try the same thing on with the track. That's great. You could also assign different effects to these pots as well. So I'm going to dive into the menu here, pots, EQ. So that's the default. And if I go to custom, I'm able to assign different things here. Filter, compression, pan, EQ, aux, effects, frequency, length. I haven't really got into that though because there's a bit of a hiccup here. If you do end up selecting this and customizing all of these pots, it completely changes all of your sounds because all of these parameters here snap to the new settings. So that just completely changes everything up. Hopefully they fix that with a future update. We're just gonna leave it as is for now. I think that logically, if you were to buy a portable mixer with effects, which you're able to assign and mix on individual tracks, aux out effects, which same thing you're able to assign to individual tracks, a quality audio interface with 12 ins and outs. I guess I should call it like a portable studio at this point. And I would say that's sonically a quality, but definitely limited drum machine. So if you were to purchase all of those things separately, brand new, you're probably looking at something around $1,200, maybe a bit less, but in that ballpark. As I mentioned before, it's 100% designed with custom parts, fits in the palm of your hand. In my opinion, the design is just so on point. It's inspiring to look at. The OP1 has a very similar effect. Like you look at it, you kind of just want to play with it. And to me, that has value. And so the counter to that is that at least at this point, a lot of these features are entry level. There are lots of limits, which I'm assuming and hoping that updates will fix. So yeah, you've got a seemingly beast hybrid in the palm of your hand, but then what? Let's talk about some limits. I'm just gonna shoot off some limits and dare I say annoyances that sort of just struck me for my first impression. First off, sequencer mode with the drum synth, you're tied into 1-bar patterns, which obviously is very limiting. On top of that, it's a very preset sequencer. So for example, there are 0, 1, 2, what is it? 22 sequences, and then there's a random mode. So let's say kick is on random mode. We're gonna hit play. Right, so it's playing randomly. I'm gonna go back to that. Okay, so you could actually see it. It's hopping back and forth. Right, there's all these different things to choose from. So you're locked in. You're locked into these patterns. So usually for kick, I just go with a standard 4 on the floor because that's the kind of music that I make. Right, so that's standard. Same with snare on 2 and 4, I could just leave it there. I'd love to see an update there, maybe something similar to the pocket operator, you know, at least something simple like that. So usually what I do, I keep it very simple, kick, snare, hi-hat. Everything else is muted, and all my other voices are coming from a different instrument. So it definitely does free up space in a DAWLESS setup. You're able to assign whatever drum that you want to each of these channels. So like, for example, you could double up the kick. Let's turn this on, and I'm gonna turn this into a kick. There we go. I'm gonna turn that frequency way high. Let's see what we could do with this. Pattern. Oh, it's set to random. So let's choose like a repeating pattern. Let's choose that one. Maybe a filter. Maybe some slap with compression. Maybe. Bring that down a bit. So mixing wise, you do have quite a few options here. So frequency, length of the note, the sequence, filter, EQ, compression. I do really like the sound of that kick too. Let's play it. Let's bring that a bit lower. Yes. Clock syncing with other instruments is not something I've fully discovered yet. I'm pretty sure you're able to do it via USB-C, but that's something I'm gonna have to discover maybe for a future video. For now, I've just been doing it the ghetto way, so manually. Let's try this. All right, we're synced. Not bad. You need tiny cables if you're gonna use all of these inputs. So of course the Teenage Engineering ones work, these ones. And then there's this. This is the cable that arrives with the TX-6. So it's USB-C to USB-C. I had to get one of these tiny adapters to plug it into my computer or, you know, into like a charging outlet. Maybe I'm just like behind on this. Like, is this where it's going? Is USB out? USB-C is the new thing, or is TE kind of just pulling like an Apple move? Before we move on, let's take a closer look at these AIAIAI headphones, the TMA2 Wireless Plus. So how do they work? First off, I think one of the most important things to mention is that they are not Bluetooth, which is how there's pretty much zero latency. I mean, there's 16 milliseconds of latency, which is less than 200th of a second, so pretty much imperceivable to us. Obviously, don't ask me to explain the technology, but it's called W+ Link technology. And so the headphones come with this little W+ transmitter. All you have to do is plug into your preferred audio out source, press the middle button on your headphones, hold it for about 3 seconds, wait for it to go on. Once the light is on, you're all linked up, ready to go, and you could travel up to 40 feet away from the transmitter without having any issues. Little side note here, it's kind of funny, the size difference between the headphones and the TX-6. This thing is tiny. And if you'd rather use them for like regular wire situations, like maybe you're just sitting at your desk, you could plug a wire into them as well. In terms of their sonics, I do find them to be very lively and punchy. So if you're using them for mixing, just consider that. Like, you might consider them being as forgiving. They're not like completely flat. I see these popping up everywhere. Like Billie Eilish was doing a live session and she was wearing these. So if these are something that you're interested in purchasing, make sure to use the promo code Killen at checkout on AIAIAI's website. If you use that promo code, you'll get a free hard case for your headphones. All right, so I've got yet another setup for you guys. So in this particular new setup, once again, the TX-6 is being used as a hybrid. So I'm gonna mute everything but tracks 1 to 4. Let's play this. So basically the same thing as you heard before, right? So now if I raise this track, you can hear that reverb. So this is aux. It's being routed through reverb, Empress's reverb, and it's on the spring preset. So that's what you're hearing on the snare. So now in aux mode here, I could choose which drums I want to add effects to. So let's say I want more spring on that snare. It's getting pretty loud. Obviously that's a bit too much. Bit on the hi-hats maybe. Cool. Now I'm gonna play the track. 1, 2, diggy tone. Oh, sorry, it was muted. So now let's say I want to add it to that. Let's turn it off. So that's what it sounds like dry. Let's blast that. Could change some effects through here as well. It doesn't sound great, but just to demonstrate this point, maybe a bit more. Let's take that off. That doesn't sound great. In particular, with this setting, I find it sounds good with drums. So there's a lot going on here, and this is obviously something that I could play with live as well. So I think I've made my point here. On top of the TX-6 being just a 12 in-out audio interface and mixer, could actually be quite involved with your actual performance. And remember that this could all be routed directly into your DAW as well. So it's a tool for your studio, and obviously imagine being on the road with a really minimal setup like this as well. So despite its limits, I still do think that the TX-6 has a lot of uses for anyone's setup, really. How are they gonna play updates on this? Are they gonna be practical? I guess time will tell, and you guys will be getting a review about it, of course, from this guy. And so that is my TX-6 review. I think I summed it up to the best of my abilities, at least now. I made sure to give you both sides of the coin, so like the limits, the pros, the cons. Hopefully this demystified and sort of clarified what the TX-6 is all about, its practical uses, pros and cons. And that's the thing with teenage engineering. People just seem to be confused oftentimes when they first release products. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate. Let me know in the comment section. I'm pretty good at getting back to you guys. Drop a comment. If you'd like to take the plunge and purchase a TX-6, there is a Perfect Circuit affiliate link linked in the description of this video. If you do end up purchasing, please do use that link. It's the best way of supporting this channel, keeping this channel going and giving you guys like informative reviews like this. I appreciate you guys being here. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your cousins. I'm sure they'll understand everything that I'm talking about in these videos. Honestly, anytime that I bring up synth stuff with my family, I might as well just be speaking Russian. It's like their eyes just go blank as soon as I say words like OP1 or TX-6. They just go, okay, bye.